another myth. And some of these myths, which were like gaslighting parents about children, really took hold of our culture. The myth that daycare is better for children than being home with your mother, that quality time is as good as quantity. I don't know. These myths grabbed hold of our culture. And I think now the ignorance in so many parents, which is not their fault, the lack of knowledge of what is actually good for children is shocking to me.
Absolutely. And I feel, and I see this all the time too. Mothers are home, but their children are in daycare. I promise you, I see this so often.
I know that.
It's this like me, me, me. I want to have my own time. I need my own time. We're such a selfish society. So
It's very selfish. Yeah.
the way you're talking, it's so eloquent. You express it so beautifully that women need to prioritize their children. But how can we make or allow women to know or understand that it is priority? If we want these children in law school, medical school, what we're dreaming of, that takes a lot of nurture and love and care to get them to that level. You can't have a traumatized kid going into all these, like healthy education and pursuing these healthy things for themselves.
No, I mean, my kids are pretty much grown at this point, and they all understand the idea of the priority of relationships. So, they're all educated and will be successful in their careers, but they all recognize that careers always have to come second to relationships. So,
Oh,
I mean, my
mm,
they have to come second to relationships. So even my son, who in the end will probably be the primary provider, he says, I don't want to work all the time. I don't want to do that. I want to be able to be with my family and my loved ones, and I feel empty when I'm working all the time. You want your children to feel empty when they work all the time.
yeah.
You want them to feel full when they're with relationships that they love. And we've created the opposite paradigm. Feel full when you're at work and feel empty when you're with your children. It's the opposite. We want them to feel full with their children and feel a little empty. So when mothers say to me, I'm preoccupied with my baby, I went back to work too soon, but everybody's telling me it'll get better. I'm like, no.
Mm.
I'm like, you don't want it to get better. You want to be preoccupied with your young child. So listen to this. Society is telling you, is gaslighting you, is telling you a myth, a lie. You listen to your instincts. It's called maternal preoccupation, and it's hormonal. When we have a baby, we can't take our mind off the baby. And society says, oh, don't worry, that'll go away. If you just wait, it'll just go away.
Mm.
There was a line from, I don't know if you know the play Our Town by Thornton Wilder,
No.
but it's my favorite play. Thornton Wilder is one of the great American playwrights. And there's a scene, it's basically about a woman who passes away, a young woman who passes away. And she leaves a young family. She dies. In those days, you could die from the flu, turn of the century, maybe. And she dies. And it's a small town. And there's a scene in the graveyard where all of her neighbors who have passed away are sitting up in their chairs in the graveyard. And she comes in. She's the newbie. She's died, and she's coming into the graveyard. And she's mourning for the loss of her children and her husband and her family, and she's crying and mourning. And the people who have passed say to her, don't worry, dear, this will pass.
Oh.
And you'll feel nothing. You'll eventually feel nothing.
Mm.
And I always think of that scene because what we're asking is that people's instincts die. That they disconnect from them, like being in the graveyard of instincts, where we tell them, don't worry, your feelings for your baby will die and you'll be okay. And it's disastrous for children.
Why do you think it's disastrous for children?
Well, when your own mother and your father cannot feel empathy towards your distress or pain or loss, then you are truly lost.
That's trauma. As Gabor says,
It's trauma.
yeah, your first, trauma is the safety net that's been compromised.
It is the trauma. Yeah.
So if the families do not have a choice, let's say daycare is the only option, other than daycare, who else is safe to leave the children with that's going to develop the attachments securely and properly?
Well, in my book, in order of appearance, I talk about what's best for children. And first and foremost, what's best for children is their primary attachment figure, usually their mother. It could be their father today. We know that. Next best would be kinship bonds. So kinship bonds are grandmothers, aunts, sisters that are caring for your children. And that's the next best, because those people have the most similar investment emotionally in your children and will be in your children's lives forever. So like an aunt, I remember when my kids were in preschool at about 4, there was a family a Latino family, who had brought the sister-in-law over from, I don't know whether it was Colombia, and she became the caregiver because the mother worked and she was the caregiver. And so, she lived with the family, but she was the aunt and she wasn't going anywhere. She was going to be the aunt for life. Now, sad for the mother that Auntie Maria was going to be closer to those children than the mother, because the mother was a banker and worked full time. Yeah. But Auntie Maria was going to be the one who would soothe them when they were in distress. And probably at the end of the day, I never really asked. I'm guessing the babies did not want to go back to the mother, but wanted to sleep with Auntie Maria. So you have to know, when you give that role away to a grandmother or an aunt, you are giving it away. You are giving something very precious away that you will never get back. Do not give that role away
to a daycare
unless you are desperate. Okay. Second after kinship bonds would be a single surrogate caregiver, a really good babysitter, or nanny who becomes like extended family. If you really don't have extended family, then hire extended family and make sure that person can stay in your children's lives for 18 years. So they're the closest. So Alba is still in our lives. So, the idea that those people remain in your children's lives like grandmothers and aunts, right?